Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm very good, Ellie. How are you?
I'm very excited, also a little bit concerned. If you haven't noticed, we had a trailer drop. We had a trailer for season 1.
What? What?
What?
A trailer for what? I thought this was just a phone call.
Well, we could just chat if you want.
No, I mean, listen, how are you getting on? How's the wife and kids doing?
No, my concerns are surrounding poor Ruby Sunday. The trailer has me a little bit worried as to her fate.
Like, everyone thinks Doctor Who is this light, fun, lively show. It's got quite the body count.
It really does. So we're going to discuss that, but just before we get into that specific thing, I want to know your thoughts on the trailer.
I think it looks great. And I'm really excited. I just give me more of Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. Give me more Millie Gibson as Ruby. But also, it looks like we're really going for. You can see the Disney dollars, but we're going for a big budget. But it looks like it's gonna be fun.
Yes.
Even in that one trailer, we have so many different themes. I have seen several episodes of Bridgerton, and I'm aware of the fact that it is an absolute institution at this point. But I was just like, oh, that's quite modern. Oh my Bridgerton. But I suppose it would be. Train of thought. Love seeing more Jinx Monsoon. Gimme, gimme, gimme. So how many episodes into the season do you think we're going to see Ruby's first death?
Yeah. It's well, the thing is, right? Okay, so I think a lot of people, the concern came from the section of the trailer where we had Carla basically asking the Doctor to keep her safe, and he says, "I will keep her safe. I
Liar!
promise." Liar.
Liar! Like, I will keep her safe. Mere moments later, we are gathered around the grave of Ruby Sunday.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people were like, famous last words. But then the question is, that's quite obvious. So is it a red herring? But more likely, what is going to happen to poor Ruby Sunday?
Like I think as well. Is it because I think it could have been if it was just like a wink to the audience, knowing that the Doctor is always ending up in dangerous situations. But see, it doesn't play like a joke.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll keep her safe, and then you would maybe hard cut to that bit where they're like horizontal in the TARDIS, or there's monsters or something, and then cut back to the Doctor smiling. Great, that's a joke. But they
Yeah.
didn't do that, which makes it feel a bit more like, oh dear.
We had a moment like this before, obviously, with Brian Williams, Rory's dad. Literally the episode before not so great things happened to Amy and Rory. We had the same situation of 11 promising to keep them safe, and we all know how that ended.
I just have this feeling now that, like, as he promises Carla, I'll keep her safe, Brian Williams will just kick the door in, going, I've been looking for you.
Yeah, you know how everyone was like, why was Brian not at the companion support group? I think he probably would not be wanting to be there.
Also, yeah, because it turned out the support group is actually quite positive about the Doctor.
Yeah, he's like,
Brian,
I ain't going there. That guy promised me, and he's a liar.
yeah, absolutely not. First rule of the Doctor's time traveler. Time travelers have to lie.
Mhm.
Anyway, off the back of that, let's have a lovely grim obituary rundown of the Doctor's combined. I suppose specifically from Russell T Davies taking over
Mhm.
to run through the combined. Also because I have done. We're going back a little while here, but about it's about a year and a half ago now. I did do a rundown of kind of all of the classic companions. This is when myself and Danny's friendship was forged in fire because it took so long. Um, but just for this one, we're just gonna concentrate on the companions from Russell T Davies because obviously he's back in charge again now. So if we look at
Yeah.
what's happened, might give us an indication as to what to look forward to.
Yeah. So we've started with Rose.
Hmm.
She is alive. She is trapped in a parallel world with basically the B-Tech version of the Doctor.
I love that. I love B-Tech version is perfect. Danny's put down discount Doctor. I love that. Poor Doctor. I mean, they're right, but so like yeah, and we have one of the most tragic scenes in Doctor Who to date, which coming as early as it did with Doomsday, Bad Wolf Bay. I know we saw her again since then, but it was just like, oh Lord, is this what we have to look forward to? And then
So,
Martha
yeah,
actually gets out. She has a pretty happy ending. She marries Mickey, but she has, I think, a happy ending ish.
yeah.
Yay, Martha!
Woohoo, good for you, Martha. And then obviously we had Donna. Again, Donna is alive.
And
Now she's got a great outcome. It just took a while to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess maybe the track record for Russell T Davies is that his companions don't tend to be killed off, but they don't tend to get the happiest of endings the majority of the time.
Oh, sorry. Just a tickle in my throat there. Yeah, Kylie Minogue's looking well as Stardust. Yeah, but and then because all of the kind of the so this before we even go into the Moffat era, but even all of kind of the side characters who were there for like a day or something like oh yeah, horrific death says what, and so what do you are is he going to off Ruby?
It's really hard to tell, isn't it? It's kind of, I think in the first era he did kill off characters, not so much the main characters. He did, but he did have a tendency to kill off characters. I mean, if we look at the series 1 finale, he killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people died on that station. He killed off Pete Tyler in Father's Day, although he was kind of already dead, but there wasn't a happy ending until later with the parallel world version. Literally in the second ever episode, the tree lady, she burned up and died.
That was horrible.
That was horrible. And I think Stephen Moffat kind of teased him about this during that first run, to the point where he actually didn't kill off some characters that he initially intended to, such as Jenny.
Yeah,
she died and then came back to life. But I think the original plan was she was just gonna be dead, and all the patients in the hospital on New Earth, New Earth.
I love how that's like, on the surface, such a silly episode, and yet there's some real tear-jerking moments in it, that all the patients survive. And of course, via her avatar, the lady Cassandra telling herself how beautiful she looks.
It's like a really moving scene, but the vainest thing in the world at the same time. It's like, should I be feeling sorry for her or not?
Well, I mean, in the words of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
True. So yeah, I guess will Russell T Davies kind of stick to his initial kind of murderous tendencies, or will he let Ruby off a little bit lighter? I mean, this is the first venture into the Disney era, so would it be a very welcoming gesture to new viewers to off the first companion of their experience?
I suppose. I mean, obviously, there's two arguments for everything. But, okay, so against killing her off, you don't have to do an ending that is killing someone off to make it poignant, to make it powerful. Again, look at Rose, look at Martha, look at... He's done it. He's done it very successfully in ways that aren't like putting them in the ground. On the other hand, it would be a good indication of no one's safe. You have this character who presumably we're going to follow for at least an entire season, and then to have them off in whatever way it happens. And Russell has been, when you think about the regenerations, Russell has tended to be quite surprising by how they come about. I mean, you might think, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and actually it's like, no, someone trips over and hits their head and like, oh, look, it's the new Doctor. So not quite well.
I also feel like the whole Ruby situation, I think it's way more complicated than that. I don't think it's going to be as simple as it may even end up her kind of maybe sacrificing herself as opposed to getting caught in something and dying. I mean, there's been a lot of theories that Ruby is some sort of bait or trap laid for the Doctor, as she's this mystery that's been set up that he cannot resist, and that maybe Ruby's mother or whoever left her there in the first place intentionally left her there to lure the Doctor.
What if she's a ganger?
Oh, goop baby.
Goop baby, because we've seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I really like this theory, and I think there's definitely merit to it. It is very similar to the River Song arc. I mean, that was the whole.
There we go. Cool. All right. Yeah. So what? How long was that?
But it's because a lot of people suggested it, but it's not a new theory as such, because this is essentially what they did with with River Song. You know, they had the baby. I mean, the baby was kind of already cooked up, but they took it and used it to kind of bait the Doctor in a way. I know there are differences to it, but yeah, it does have similarities there. But Danny has actually informed us of something with regards to an abandoned plot for series
This
1.
was cool. I didn't know this.
I didn't know this either. It's very, very interesting. So, Boomtown in series 1, it's personally, we've always said it's a very underrated episode. A lot of people don't like Boomtown. Personally, I don't. I think it's quite a good episode. But anyway, apparently Boomtown was actually a replacement script because the original plan for whatever that episode was going to be ended up not happening. But the original idea for that was that the Doctor had created Rose as an experiment to find the perfect companion. This is such an interesting premise.
So so trying to wind the clock back to 2005. Yeah, we'd seen the Doctor go through 20 plus companions at this point. And was presumably still, this is long before we knew much about Time Wars, reeling from the loss of Daphne Ashbrook. And yeah, like maybe create something that's a little more hard wearing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that necessarily this is a complete and utter replica of this idea, but would Russell T Davies, I mean, he's very detailed and knowledgeable about the history of the show. And particularly if this was an episode that would have been in his first run, has he revisited some of his original plans? So I don't necessarily know that Ruby is a creation of the Doctor's, but it definitely suggests this idea that someone has created this perfect trap for the Doctor, this perfect companion, this perfect bait that will lure out the Doctor in some way.
Absolutely. I mean, I know they've been emphatic that we're not going to see kind of returning villains in season 1, which I'm fine with. Let's take things in a new direction. But yeah, the idea of the Daleks cooking up the perfect companion to capture the Doctor, 100%.
Yeah.
Or the Cybermen,
the Trickster.
The Trickster.
That's who I've been lingering on. I don't know that they'd bring back the Trickster at this point, but I just feel like that is a character who was mentioned in Doctor Who. We never saw the Trickster in Doctor Who.
Not in Doctor
was
Who, yeah.
Such a brilliant villain for the Sarah Jane Adventures. Quite scary as well, because obviously the Sarah Jane Adventures was more focused at a younger audience.
Yes.
And for a show that was more aimed at children than Doctor Who was, and obviously even less so than Torchwood.
Well, yes. Considering Torchwood's second episode,
was terrifying.
No, I agree. Because I was, I think it was how I was before. I was a relatively late convert to the Sarah Jane Adventures. A lot of it, genuinely, I just didn't have access to it. And so it sort of passed me by for a while, a bit like Class. But then sort of came back to it and loved it. And I do like the fact that, the Trickster, it could step into any of those spin-offs and feel at home. Torchwood, because it's definitely an adult show, the high camp that it often goes with, you can have a villain that looks like a villain that would appear in a kids show or whatnot. So I love that theory. I obviously we need to bring back the Pating.
Do you know what? I just had another kind of theory thought as we were talking there. So, I mean, I spoke about it quite extensively in the breakdown of the trailer, but my theory is that obviously ever since the Doctor invoked the words that I've forgotten, myth,
I'm just going to say magic.
Magic, mystery,
fantasy, yeah. Salt. Ever since the Doctor decided to season the universe.
I've forgotten the words. But yeah, ever since that happened, we know that a shift has happened. It's why the toy maker was able to appear, and why suddenly things that shouldn't exist do, such as by generation, which was always a myth until now. So obviously I spoke about this, my theory being that there has been a fundamental shift, a change within the universe, whereby things that the Doctor has always fundamentally said cannot exist, are not real, now are. And so I'm thinking, well, what if Ruby, I mean, it was very, Ruby showed up right after this change happened. Yep. So what if Ruby is somehow an impossible being in some way that now only exists because this change has happened? So how is the relevance there? She's different in some way, and I feel like she exists now as a result of these changes. So perhaps is she safe, isn't she safe, if the aim is for the Doctor to figure out how this change has happened and how to reverse it, would reversing this switch would it remove the things that exist because of it? Although now I've just said it out loud, 15 wouldn't exist if they reversed it because the whole bi-generation thing.
True.
Mm.
The whole I both do and don't want them to get into the nitty-gritty of explaining how by generation worked, because I do, because I like lore. I always have.
Yeah.
I don't, because you could overcomplicate the weeds. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But then if you do that, if you put a hard and fast rule, this is why bi-generation happened, then are you stuck with, like you're saying, it's like, okay, well then we undo something somewhere else.
Yeah.
Once we've just either now written ourselves into a corner, like I remember it's not about bi-generation, but when we got to 11's regeneration, it was like,
Yeah. What do we do?
it was real nice when someone 25 years ago said, "Oh, 12 regenerations. There we go."
But at
Yeah,
least they addressed it, because
but
they
at
could have
least
very
they addressed
easily
it.
ignored that. And then
Yes,
someone like us would have gone, hang on a minute, this doesn't make sense. And
exactly.
so,
Yeah,
but
something
they're
happened.
not stupid. So I feel like they are clever enough to think of these workarounds and these explanations.
I think it's what, like
One,
this. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say
no,
I'll
I
just
was
go with
just, it
wild
was a
speculation,
different
but you.
thought. It was a
Hmm,
different thought, but I was just thinking, obviously, we've spoken about how, we feel like Ruby obviously is very important to this story. There's
sure.
clearly potentially different versions of the character. We've spoken about how her stepping on the butterfly, which I think was a really funny scene in the trailer, how that's maybe branched off different realities or different versions of and different timelines. What I don't want them to fall into the trap of, and which I think maybe it's more to do with our speculations because of what we know has happened before, but I'm finding a lot of similarities to Clara and how
Yeah.
she was spread between, all the different lives of the Doctor. So I don't want it to be too repetitive, in as much as we don't want that same kind of idea of her repeating and being important to the Doctor's life in that way. And as I said, the suggestion that she's some sort of bait to trap the Doctor, you don't want that to venture too closely into being too similar to River Song. So, which makes me think that maybe it's something completely new, because
And like as well, you could have, I'm not saying do this exactly, because the whole point is it's been done, but fob watch. Are we, do we see a new interpretation of the Master? Do we see a new regeneration of the Rani? We know at this point that for a time locked war, there was a lot of bloody holes in that time lock. Like the Daleks just kind of went, ha, cute, and got out of there, no problem. Is it something that along those lines? For all we know, Ruby could be Rassilon. Do you know what I mean? And then just
yeah.
fob watch, so that obviously the Doctor won't sense the fact that.
I don't want us to fall into the trap of, as fans and people that have been fans for a long time, and there's a lot of lore, you are constantly looking for connections and for someone to be, oh, that's so. Even in the breakdown we did a follow-up breakdown, and we said, oh, what if this character is an older version of Ruby? What if this character is a younger version of Mrs. Flood? I don't want us to fall into the trap of making so many connections that we are disappointed when Ruby is revealed to be a completely unique character and a completely different storyline to what anyone has suggested. Because it's fun to make these links and speculations, but I also think it can be equally as fun for this to be a completely new thing and for us to wander into a new era of the show. But I guess the showrunners themselves are aware enough to know how to find a perfect balance.
And also, I mean, I don't think as writers they shouldn't be sitting there thinking, well, the audience will guess this, the audience will guess that. What they need to write a good story. Now, if that brings stuff from the past, great. If that's completely new, there's a it's on one of the upcoming, oh, that's what it is. So the new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, there was a statement put out just as the trailer dropped that says there are people in the writers' room who we deliberately picked because they've never seen a frame of Star Wars. Now you have people there to guide, so you can't go, there is rules to work within, but it's just write me a story. Now we know Russell T, obviously, like you said, completely aware of Doctor Who lore, knows what he's doing, knows the franchise, everything. But I do like the idea of not letting the lore guide the story, let the story guide the lore.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the danger that we've kind of fallen into a little bit more recently. It's, oh, we have a mysterious character in Mrs. Flood. It must be someone we've met before. And I think we've spoken about this in a discussion before. They've got to find the balance where it's not disappointing if it is a new character, but it isn't too predictable if it does turn out to be someone we've met before.
Yeah.
I don't envy these creatives because
I can't wait for the revelation that Mrs. Flood is Adric. Because no one's going to see it coming. They're going to be like, but WhoCulture said on this video on this day.
I wouldn't say, don't take our word as gospel. I already had an existential crisis the other day because I thought I'd said Diplodocus wrong my whole life.
Oh, yeah. And what did it say? So, Diplodocus, Diplodocus.
Diplodocus. I honestly thought that, you know, there's like always a word in your family that your parents have said a certain way, and it's like a weird way that's unique to your family, and then you say it to someone who's not in your family, and suddenly you're like, oh, I forgot that that's a thing. That's just an us thing. I genuinely thought that I'd been saying it wrong my whole life because my mom had been saying it wrong her whole life. And she was like, no, that's definitely how they said it at school. And I spent the entire day with all the people I saw. How do you say, you know, the dinosaurs with the long necks? How do you say that? And they all said the
one
same
person
thing.
be like, yeah, it's a Brachiosaurus. I was like,
Well,
that's a
there was a
different
lot
dinosaur.
of people. Well, there are a lot of people calling me out because I actually don't know dinosaurs. I just see a dinosaur with a long neck and a stumpy body. I go to Diplodocus.
A long neck. Brachiosaurus, Mamenchisaurus. And then there's another one.
T-Rex.
I mean, like if you compare its neck to our neck, sure, it's a longer neck. I will give you that. I saw a long neck dinosaur not too long ago, and by that I mean I went to the zoo and the giraffes were long.
Giraffe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did have a lot of people saying, actually, that's not a Diplodocus anyway. And I was like, look, I don't know dinosaurs. I'm not Ross Geller, okay?
What a reference. What a very specific. I like it though. I get that.
Everyone will get that. Come on.
What was it? I was also like, I mean, my dinosaur love started with Jurassic Park, of course, but I saw somebody shared a meme. No credit. Sorry, no, as in I'm not taking credit for this. This is a meme I saw online. It's like my toxic trait is that if Jurassic Park opened today, I'd still totally go. Like 100%. Yeah. I know it's gonna go wrong. I'd still go.
I feel like we verged slightly off topic here, but
I mean, like it was in the trailer. This is a tangential. It's like you know Michael Sheen's house and aunt and uncle. It's on the side of the universe. Do you know what I mean? Like it's there.
Oh,
it's there.
what a reference! Well done. I applaud you for that. That was wonderful. Took me a minute, but I got there in the end. I was like, why are we talking about Michael Sheen's house? Have you been to Michael Sheen's house before?
Not that he knows of. Anyway. Look, I suppose in summary, so companions have a tendency to maybe not have the best time ever under Russell T's tenure, but I think with increasing variations on the word survive, they've all, or a lot of the main ones tend to survive.
Yeah.
In whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah. So I guess perhaps Ruby will suffer, but survive in the end. Or he'll completely go against what he's done before and shock everyone, and Ruby's dying in episode 3.
Do you know what? I mean, I don't want that, but you guarantee you won't see it coming.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, let us know in the comments. Do you think Ruby is going to survive, or do you think she's going to unalive?
Actually, considering all of the things in the trailer, imagine she just has a really busy 2 episodes.
Yeah.